Hi, this is Ed Rising, and welcome back to Ed's Pop-O-Matic podcast, a retro pop culture podcast where everything retro beats the new when you keep it in your heart. And today we have a wonderful show. I've been looking forward to doing in the series we're doing on the Partridge Family and David Cassidy. And our special guest today is the host of the My Partridge Family Collection video cast that you can find on YouTube. Her name is Patty Labella. Welcome to the show, Patty. How are you?
Thank you, Ed. I really appreciate it. I'm so excited to be here. I'm a fan of your show and all the great guests that you've had in the past, and just talking retro. And I'm excited to talk about David Cassidy and the Partridge Family as always. Like
Yeah, yeah,
I can't wipe the grin off my face. I get so excited.
absolutely, absolutely. I discovered your video cast. Do you call it a podcast or do you call it a video
You know
cast?
what? We're actually on, we have a podcast as well on Apple Podcasts and Spreaker, but we are mainly on YouTube because I'm sharing my collection and it's very visual. So it's really hard. I mean, I do have listeners on the podcast because sometimes people just don't have the time to sit and watch a video.
Yeah.
So they have that option if you want to go and listen to the podcast as well. And I try to explain the stuff as much as I can. But the YouTube is where it shines because that's when you can really see it. And we do like a lot of we do I always say we, but it's just me. I talk about the
Well,
audience.
we as a people who are fans,
Right.
we enjoy this is something that we get. A lot of other people do not get it, and they say, "Why?" And but we've loved it, and I'm so glad that you're celebrating it, and everyone that I talk to on here or this and that. It's a lot of people I've come into contact with, and they're surprised. Well, all of a sudden I'll bring up David Cassidy and the Partridge Family, and all of a sudden someone just like, yeah, I like them too.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah, we celebrated together, so that's cool.
right.
So I wanted to ask you, regarding, I found the podcast only about a year ago, and then I kind of got into it a bit more in the last few months, um, and just amazed. Firstly, I'm gonna just ask you a question about the fan club because you did an episode on the fan club and the fan club items. Now you had I don't know if you have anything with you today. That Patty's brought some wonderful items to share with us, but I was blown away that you actually had the mailings packaging for the Partridge Family Fan Club items. Was this original or was this something that you obtained later in life?
This is something that I obtained later in life. I did have it, but like a lot of things, it gets lost. We moved a lot when I was a kid. My mom didn't appreciate all my stuff. A lot of the items that I have from the fan club, and that was my most recent video that I did as of this recording. So I unfortunately didn't bring anything because I figured people would just see that, right? But yeah, but a lot of the items in there are my original, including the flexi discs and the membership card and things like that. But I did pick up that mailing from the Loffer company, the Manila envelope, and I was like, I gotta have that Manila envelope. That's just
Yeah,
part of.
absolutely. Because that came from the law for a company. And that was Tiger Beat. Now, for those of you who don't necessarily know, but Lawfer, I forget the man's name, but he was the owner of Tiger Beat magazine and Flip magazine and others that were related to that. And so just to see that mailing and the Partridge Family logo, which you have on your wonderful shirt there, you know, these are the things that make me smile.
Right?
That's the one of the great things about the Partridge Family is that to me, when I see the bus or when I see things like that, I just I just smile. It makes me so happy because it is a come on, get happy. I mean,
Right.
but it does. It brings back a great, you know, time in my life when I was a young kid and maybe I didn't have a lot of friends, but the Partridge Family was something that I could relate to. Did you find something similar did you relate to it something somewhat
Oh,
similarly?
oh yeah, yeah. It was, I talk about this a lot. It was my first. band that I called my own. Like I listened to my parents, I listened to Beatles and I listened to, all the albums that my mom and dad had and my cousins, Beach Boys and everything. But when the
Hmm.
Partridge Family came out, and I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, that was my album. Like that was mine. They were mine. And I felt a very like possessiveness. And then when all this, and then when the show hit and, we're singing I Think I Love You and all those memories just come flooding back. And I could listen to that first album
Yeah.
today and I get flooded with memories, even though I've listened to it for the, half a century. I don't think about me listening to it in the 90s or like the early or yesterday. I think about, 1970.
Yeah.
That's where
Yeah.
it brings me back to. And it's so strange. And I mean, I'm like, I always try to figure that out. Why does this have like this sensory like control over me where it just takes me back? And there are certain things in my collection that do the same thing. And that was one of the reasons why I started this show. You said you found it a year ago. I only started it 2 years ago. It was the summer of 2023, and I was going through my garage, and I was intentionally going through my garage to get rid of like all this memorabilia stuff that I've collected over the years. And I was a huge like sports memorabilia fan. So I had a ton of stuff. I'm like, I'm just going to put on eBay. So I've been, we've been in our house for 20 years. I haven't pulled anything out. So I was going through the garage and I was, taking pictures of some of my sports memorabilia, which I did sell. And, I was fine with it. And I had some other collections. As a kid of the 60s and 70s, we were all kind of collectors. That's what we did for fun. Stamps and coins and everything, baseball cards. And so I was selling that stuff pretty easily. It didn't really have a connection to it. And then I came across some of my Partridge Family stuff, and I would put it aside. Like I'll get to it later. But as I pulled it out, it was like started like you said, like it just gave me so many memories. I'm like, why haven't I, how come I'm not like looking at this stuff more often? Because it's bringing back so many memories. And
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it. And I said, well, I'm not going to sell it. I just can't because I had this sense of dread, right? First, it made me happy because I got to see this stuff that I hadn't seen in many, many years. And
Yeah.
then I just got this dreadful feeling like now I got to sell it. And I was like, what can I do? Like my family doesn't want it. They're kind of pushing me to get rid of this stuff. What are you going to do with this stuff? Get rid of it. But they just don't know that feeling that it comes from. And so I've been watching YouTube shows on collectibles. There was a Beatles collectible show that I really like, and some Hollywood memorabilia shows that I liked. And I'm like, well, why can't I do that? Why can't I just show a few of my items? They'll be preserved forever on the interweb, and I can maybe let go of it. But the
Yeah.
more I got invested in it, and then the more like probably you Ed too, it's like talking to people that watched that found the show, or people like on social media oh my God, like they're so happy. Like it's like, thank you so much for these videos. And I remember this and I forgot all about that. And I didn't know that this existed. And just like the conversations and the joy that people are getting from it. I'm like, this was meant to be. I'm just going to keep rolling with it until I run out of stuff to show because it's been a pleasure. It really has been. And it's surprising too that, all these years I thought that I was the only one. Like when the Partridge Family went off the air in 74, I was still listening to the Partridge Family albums. My friends had kind of moved on.
Right.
I was listening to David Cassidy like throughout like my, through that 70s, 80s, 90s, and I didn't want to tell anybody and I kept it very closeted.
Okay.
And then but the funny thing is that I hear that from a lot of people. People say, "Oh, I kept it a secret. I didn't want people to know that I was a Partridge Family fan because it became uncool at a certain time."
Right. And now I experienced that too. And I just want to just go back a little bit what you were saying about, finding all this memorabilia and the joy that it brought you. It really does. It has that sensory magic to it. Takes me when I hear the music or when I see some of these items. First of all, you forget that they even did the paper dolls, or they did the color forms, or they did this or that. Because it wasn't maybe something that I was necessarily into. but it brings you back and say, oh my God, remember all the excitement around getting the magazine every week, and all that kind of stuff, or whenever it was, or every month or whatever it was. And it was just so much fun. And I enjoyed it so much. And similarly to you, I continued my David Cassidy / Partridge Family fandom going way past junior high. And I remember one of my quick stories I'll tell you, because we also kind of collect stories, with our friends and so forth. So
Right.
one of my uh, uh, coming of age moments was when I was at a boardwalk in New Jersey, amusement park, and they had one of the uh, one of the things that they had there was like chance games, and there's like a spinning wheel, and if you got they came up on your number, then you could win a prize. And this one in particular was all record albums, and it was gorgeous. It was all massive of record albums, and I'm with my three friends, all like a year older, about my age, women, girls, I should say, and right in the center of those albums is the new Partridge Family uh, crossword puzzle album. And I zero on it and I get excited about it. And the girls see it and they grabbed me and said, first time they ever did grab me, by the way. And and they
Yeah.
said to me, Ed, if you win, you cannot take the Partridge Family album. We won't talk to you. So, and I'm sure it was an empty threat, but when you're, at that particular age, it's I ended up getting the Edgar Winter album,
Oh God. You wanted
which
to be cool.
an Edgar Winter album is like he's dressed up as a transvestite, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna explain this to my mother. So yeah, have your moments with it, but yeah, it stuck with me for a long time, and then
Yeah.
eventually, you meet people as you get a little bit older, and then they begin to look back on it a little bit and say, yeah, 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 I could admit to that, I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and the thing too that I found out, I kept my albums since I was a kid. So I had all my original albums and um like a few years ago, like everybody, I guess I rediscovered my vinyl. I never got rid of any of my vinyl and I have a huge collection, but I'd gotten rid of my record player like years ago. So I went back, I got a record player, I want to say like maybe 10 years ago or something. And I went back and I was like, I haven't listened to these records in so long. They hold up. Like I
yeah,
tell this to people, this is not the bubble gum like thing that you think it is. Like this music, I mean, what credit to Wes Farrell and the Wrecking Crew and the Baylor brothers and all that, everybody and all the great songwriters that they had. And then of course the voice of David Cassidy, which is there's none other, none before, none after, I think. And it just holds up. If you have some Partridge Family albums in your collection, and I know you guys do because you're watching this this show and listening to this show, listen to the Partridge Family albums again. Give it a second listen because it's amazing. They're on my playlist constantly, and I just adore them. And it does bring you back, and it does bring you into a better state of mind, especially in the world we live in today.
sure. And
Very,
this good quality pop music.
yeah, it's good.
I mean, and great production and arrangements and sophisticated, and yeah. So I mean, I'm still finding things in the music that
Oh
I've come
yeah.
to love. Like I've come to really have a great appreciation for the Shopping Bag album.
Yeah.
I said, now they really took it like to another level with that
Well,
album. They really did. And you did
right.
a show on Shopping Bag, and
I
so
try to
yeah,
incorporate album spotlights in my show as well. So I'm not just showing you my collection, but I've actually done, I think the first five albums I've done spotlights on. And so we'll go through the album, talk a little bit behind the scenes, some trivia, and then listen to snippets of each song.
yeah,
So yeah, so the next album I'm looking to do is the At Home with the Partridge Family, which was the greatest hits. But mostly they've been studio albums that I've been doing and spotlights, and Yeah,
Yeah.
I get a lot of great comments, and then a lot of corrections. People will come back and say, "Hey, you forgot to say this," or "Oh, that really wasn't this." So there's a lot of like smart Partridge Family fans out there that
Hey,
I'm grateful for. I'm like,
that's right.
keep it coming, guys. Let me know what
That's
I do
right.
wrong
Let's
or say wrong.
No, I real and I enjoy. That's why I enjoyed. Always enjoyed chat groups and things like that
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you get to know everybody's perspective on things and more information and just people that really know more about the labels or they know more about the
yeah.
this or that. And so yeah, so the more involved, the more people involved, the more you learn. Um, so
Every day.
can I ask you, since we're talking about these collectibles, if you have one or two items or more that you want to show us,
Yeah,
and
got a few items I can show you. I was thinking like maybe I'll show you something that I haven't shown on my show
a
yet.
premiere.
A premiere, a couple of premieres. But
Wow.
one thing I do want to show you before I do that, of course, my first episode was on the lunch pail, and whenever I bring out the lunch pail, people are like, "Oh, that brings back so many
Yeah,
memories." This was the thing that did it for me, Ed, because when I got this lunch pail, I was it. Like that was it for me. And this was like I had my original, it's kind of beat up. But this one I had two lunch pails. Like the first one I got in 1971 when they released it, and I was like, you can have your Brady Bunch lunch pail and your Snoopy and your strawberry shortcake. Like this was the only thing that mattered to me. And then I'll just show you around. This is actually a really good condition one. And you
it
can
is.
get these, you can get these on eBay. They're still around. They're battered. There's a lot of rust, but this one's pretty clean.
Yeah,
Um, and then, you can tell this is a reissue. I think the reissue was 1973, because of the clasp is different. So the old clasps were like the old timey metal clasps, and they were
metal clasp. Yeah.
the first thing to break, right? And I remember my mom actually having to put like a bobby pin in it to keep it closed. Otherwise, I'd be walking and the whole thing would open up and
Right,
everything.
right, right, right. There goes the lunch.
There goes the, and then the original. This was the first
This is the
edition, and then they
thermos.
did the plastic one afterwards. But yeah, my first show was the lunch pail. It had to be because this was the thing that I mean, I still, when I look at it and I just kind of examine it, I'm like, this was it for me. That was it.
Yeah.
Um, One thing I wanted to show you is I know that I think I did show the David Cassidy guitar at one point. Um,
Yeah, that's
this
cool.
was very cool in the box, and this was the ukulele. It was released by Carnival in 1973. But the one that I haven't shown yet on my show that I'm looking forward to doing an episode where I can actually show it. It's kind of the big life-size one in the
Oh
box.
wow. Look at
This is
that.
again by Carnival, but like that little one was like a ukulele style. This one is more let me it's more like it's a deluxe. It's considered the deluxe
Yeah, yeah,
by
yeah.
Carnival. Again in 1973, I think it was released. I have my cheat sheet
Very
here.
nice.
Yeah, so this is really cool. I've had some offers on this. I will not ever get rid of it. That's like that's my one of my highlights, I think, of my collection. I also have something that's interesting, and you may not. I mean, I don't know if you may remember. You probably don't because you were a little boy, but the Partridge Family came out with a clothing line, and it was a Kate Greenaway clothing line. I did a little show on the Glory Partridge paper dolls. You can see the logo here, Partridge Family, and they
Hmm.
always had like a little partridge somewhere on the outfit. And these were sold at J.C. Penney, and there was a whole clothing line, and I think it ranged from like 7-year-olds, which that was the sweet spot. I think I was like 7 in 1970, and um from 70 to 74, so the ages range from like 7 years old to like preteen 12 was like where they'd have pants and shorts and things, but this is a
Hmm.
little girl's dress. And I have a few dresses actually from the Kate Greenaway collection, but only sold at JC Penney's. And just one of those things in my collection that I'm like, what am I going to do with
That's
it?
a unique item. What are you gonna do with it exactly? You know,
Maybe I
but
can, I don't know, dress my dog up in it, I guess. The,
Hey, there you go.
you were talking about the bus. So the most interesting thing that I've found over like the years is that this is the Heritage Collection Carlton cards uh Christmas ornament that came out 2003, 2004. I just did an episode of the Johnny Lightning die cast cars, and they made quite a few. They were released in 1998, and then they did a re-release in like 2003. But the ornament, every time I show it, and I show it usually around Christmas time. I'll give you a better look of it here. It's careful, nervous mother driving. Let's see if I get this here. I don't know if you can see that. With the little Christmas tree on top. I put it on my tree every year, and every time I show a picture of it, inevitably, like dozens of people will say, "I need that. How can I get one of those?" I was like, "Well, they came out fairly recently, early 2000s. But if you press the doors, here's the real cool thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I had one of those, but the tree broke. So and I think there's some kind of a battery in there. I think it did play maybe it played something.
The batteries are on the top, and unfortunately, you can't shut it off until they sing like a couple of choruses.
Okay.
But the interesting thing, though, and I'm gonna put this down. It's like, stop. I know. I was like, how can I shut this off? This one shut off. You have to wait till it. There you go. But the interesting thing about the bus, and this is the thing that you were kind of alluding to before, is that when the Partridge Family ended in 1974, the music ended, the show ended, and the merchandise basically ended too. Like like the guitar, they still sold that. You could still get that in a J.C. Penney catalog, like in '75. But for the most part, everything kind of ended as far as the merchandise. Like you were saying, the paper dolls and the activity books and the coloring books and the color forms and the puzzles and all the stuff, okay, that I have in my collection.
Yeah.
Um, I always think it's so interesting that after all those years, like in the early 2000s, especially, and actually as late as 2015, Hot Wheels did a Mondrian style Hot Wheels bus. Um, they found something to market with the Partridge Family, and it's the bus. Without the bus, which I always thought was like the eighth character of the show, right? You had the kids, you had mom, you had Ruben, and you had the bus. And they still market the bus. It's like, who would have thought, right?
It's iconic. It's fun,
It's
right?
iconic, right? But it's also brilliant that without this bus, what would they have marketed? I mean, David Cassidy had come and gone,
Other than the music. Yeah.
other than the music, right?
Right.
That's another story that I have.
Right.
But yeah, I just love the fact that the die cast came out, and then the Hot Wheels, and then the ornament. Who knows what's next? I just get a kick out of it, I guess. When I see anything with a bus, I have a mug that I found in a on
Oh, that's cool. Very cool.
Etsy, right? Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to show you real quick, Ed, and I know I haven't shown this on my show either, and it's only because I'm waiting for something, but I have all the albums in, like, I have I have a lot of imports, and I have them all in all the different formats, cassettes and 8 tracks and vinyl, of course. But I also have reel to reels. And I know, like, if you're of a certain age, the reels to reels. And actually, I have like a lot. I have the first 5 albums, I guess it would be.
On reel to reel. Wow.
I don't have Christmas Card. I don't know that Christmas Card was actually released on reel to reel, but for some of you young kids out there, this was a very interesting way to listen to music back in the day. My dad had
Yeah.
a hi-fi, and he had a reel to reel player on it. And so I remember getting a couple of these and just playing them and thinking, well, that's interesting. Not really realizing the different sound. Well, come to find out, I actually had somebody who watches the show, watches my podcast and YouTube show, and they said, "Oh yeah, I'm a huge reel-to-reel guy, and I have a reel-to-reel player, and I have he had like some of those. I think he had Up to Date and Sound Magazine, and and he sent me a videotape of it, and the sound is very interesting. It sounds very different, you know, from vinyl, but it's almost richer. I don't know. I can't explain it. But I've been waiting because I've been pricing reel-to-reel machines because I want to play it on. I haven't shown these on my show because I want to play it for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The idea, but they're super expensive, number one. And then if you go on eBay, you don't really know if like they work. Like some of these look really wanky, like are these gonna work? So I'm kind of like pacing myself and thinking, well, one of these days I'll get myself a reel-to-reel player, and then I'll do a show on it because I have had people ask me about the reel-to-reels, and I guess there's a resurgence going of reel-to-reels. I don't know why, because when I was a kid, I was like, why would I do this when I have a record?
Well,
Right?
that's the funny thing is, right, but there's been a resurgence in vinyl of the last 15, 20 years, right? That's really cool. Again, of course, now it's probably better made vinyl records now.
Yeah.
Whether there's older releases, the re-releases or new stuff. But it's just weird for me because, I mean, as a kid, as a teenager, as a young person, I collected records. I didn't necessarily have a huge collection, but I had a pretty good collection. And then when CDs came out, you know, I went to the CDs, and that was great. I rebought everything on this, not everything, but I bought a lot of stuff on CDs. And then streaming came around, or whatever, iPod, right? And I
Right,
ripped all
right.
my CDs into my computer so I could listen to them on the iPod. Then streaming came. Look, what the hell? How many times am I going to rebuy the music?
What's next?
So I mean that's what I find it interesting. You've got the reel to reels, you got the 8 tracks, you got the cassettes, you got the multiple. See, I can't do that. I might do one or two albums, or maybe there's a variation or something. Or if there's a giveaway, then I would want that. But it's just everybody has their own preference, and but
Well,
it's so cool to watch these things on your show.
well, thank you. And the fun thing about it too is people will ask me like, "Hey, do you have the?" Like people have been asking me about the Partridge Family official magazine. Like, do you have those? And I'm like, yeah, I have all of them. I haven't shown them yet because I'm just trying to figure out how do I do them justice. Like, I want to show every single one of them.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that was
That's
the
something I would like to find. Gotta
yeah.
gotta go back and find my old Tiger Beats and
Oh,
and
there's
things
so
like
much.
that. That would be fun to find.
Yeah, there's
I have all of that went away a long time ago.
well, that's
You
the
know.
thing. Like when you look at some of this stuff, you're like, I had that, but you maybe not have thought about it in years. It's like,
Yeah.
wow. And then, and I have the comic books and I have the trading cards, and trading cards I've had since I was a kid. Those were like my thing. And the David Cassidy comic books I did a show on, and people were like, I didn't even know that existed. Like I didn't know David Cassidy had his own comic book. And so like there's
Yeah. Yeah.
things like that happen that I'm really excited about. I'm like, how did you not know about this? But
Yeah. Yeah.
because you're not crazy like I am. And then the mystery novels too. I was a huge fan of those, and I just did a show on that too. And I showed my whole collection of, Car I forgot that name. I want to say Carlton, but it's not. It's the
Was it Scholastic Book Society?
yeah, it was a Scholastic book. Yeah, for sure. I got my most of them off the Scholastic book club, and actually on that show, I actually show some Scholastic book sheets. Like we used to just like go and
My
check.
audience might remember that there when we were in school, we would get these Scholastic book catalogs every so often. We could order these books through the school. And yeah, so yes, I always ordered the Partridge Family
Mhm.
Mysteries.
I loved them. And then people said the same thing. It was like, oh yeah, I remember this was my favorite. This was my favorite book in the series, or it's like it just brings back a ton of memories. And but you might have been something that you just haven't thought about in a half a century.
I remember the big controversy was that they had the Rosemary's Baby book in the Scholastic and the uproar over the parents that this
Uh,
was available for children to read, you know.
right. Yeah, yeah, but
Um,
it got me to read. I wasn't a
yeah.
huge reader when I was a kid, but boy, I love those Partridge Family books, and they were there were mysteries, and it always had something weird and creepy going on, and I love that, and it got me into that type of genre as I got older, being
Yeah.
like the Stephen King and stuff like that. But that was, those really got me into reading, and the comic books too. They're great stories, and just quality stuff, like really quality items, I think, that hold up to today.
And the thing that bothers me about it, although as great as it was that they had all this stuff available to us as young fans, and now as older adults, we can go back and try to collect them or live vicariously through collectors like yourself who have your wonderful podcast or video cast. Um, but because David Cassidy was the subject of most of it, you know,
Yeah,
he wasn't compensated properly.
yeah,
And unfortunately, and this is just the sad thing about David Cassidy, whom I loved. He was my idol when I was a kid. He was who I wanted to be. I saw
yeah.
him on the Partridge Family. I saw him playing guitar and girls screaming. So that's the job I want. That's what I want to do.
That's what I want
You
to
know,
do.
and
Yeah,
so it was like he just was never able to fully accept that he fought, I think, till his dying day to be given the proper compensation for all that, you
yeah.
know?
And I do talk about that a lot, Ed, because it is like it kind of bittersweet, like a lot of times I show my stuff, like I think with the color forms too, I really kind of dove into that a little bit. Was that as much as I love looking at this stuff, there's like this like dark cloud that kind of hangs over it, that David wasn't given the recognition or the compensation for
Yeah,
anything, and his image was just thrown around willy-nilly, and so many people made so much money off of the back of this guy, and it's just a shame. And it's one
yeah,
of those, is it is like a dark cloud over the collection and anybody who collects Partridge Family stuff, because it's something we think about a lot. It's
yeah,
certainly
sure.
not something you take advantage as a Partridge Family collector. Um, so yeah, but it's one of those things that we didn't know when we were kids. We were just buying up the stuff. We were loving
Right. We didn't
David,
think
and
about any of
we
that.
didn't have any,
No.
inclination that this guy wasn't getting compensated, or that, there was no like licensing, image and licensing rules
Right.
back then. I mean,
But,
for any.
you read so much about like I'm a big Beatles fan.
Yeah.
And so and I was like you said, you saw some of the Beatles collectible. So I have some friends that I've gotten involved in that do these things. And so anyway, where was I going with that? Something about Beatles collections, Beatles, something. Anyway, sorry. It'll come back to me, I'm sure.
Yeah. I have those
But
moments too, Ed,
ladies
all the
and gentlemen, thank you for that Ed's
time.
mind technical difficulties. There we go. So
Right with you.
I wanted to make mention of a couple of items I saw on a show that's not a recent show that you did. But about a year or so ago, you did a show about some items that you had received and you were unpacking them. And there was a 45 that you got through somebody that it was a Mexico release, and it was a single of "I Think I Love You," and it was and you unwrapped the whole thing and you showed us the 45 disc and the photo and so forth. I noticed that the picture that the label on the album on the single was capital as it was issued in Mexico, and I found that to be very curious because I wouldn't have associated capital um with
Yeah.
what's it called, Columbia Pictures.
Right. I find that a lot on a lot of different imports, and I never really paid attention to it, but now that I'm more like, and I dive into discogs and things like that, and I try to learn as much as I can about these imports. That was an unboxing show. I haven't done it in a while just because I haven't gotten anything new, but there was I think I had a period of time where I had like a a month or two where I just got a bunch of stuff, and so I got to open them up on camera for the first time, which is always kind of fun. Uh,
Yeah,
so I haven't really done much research on that, to be honest with you. I don't know too much about it. There's a lot of imports that I don't know too much about. My favorite imports really are the Japanese imports because they're so well done, and they were usually affiliated with Bell in some way. Um,
Yeah.
so that those were easy. But like I find like there's some labels like that are done in Mexico, in Malaysia. I see that this a lot where it's just like it's almost like they're like bootleg copies or something, or they're maybe not with permission by Sony. I'm gonna look into that Columbia one too because I kind of like put it away and I haven't really done much research on it. But
Well, that's a good point about the permission. Like for instance, on the Japanese releases, there was more pictures involved in the
mhm,
later releases. Some odd reason. I don't understand who's talking to who in the marketing department, but in the later Partridge Family albums, I think after Shopping Bag, right, there's very few pictures of David Cassidy or the Partridge Family on the ensuing releases. And
right,
so I found that um, Sony probably did more of that. And those are those are much nicer. Like the Notebook, for instance.
right,
There's the big and when the CD was put on it, they used the Japanese pressing version of it, which
right,
was
right,
cool. I always consider it was just the Partridge Family White album, and that's
right, right. You know your stuff. I know you had Johnny Ray Miller on your show, the author of When
yeah,
We Were Singing, Partridge
very
Family.
nice guy.
Yeah, I had him on my show as well, and I asked him about that, about the Notebook album in particular. And he was like, he had talked to the designer, because that guy talked to everybody, that had anything to do with anybody. And he's like, they just wanted it that way. That's the way they wanted it. There was nothing like they had permission, they had the licensing. They could put David's picture, full on if they wanted to, but they just wanted that. And I just thought it was very interesting because I was waiting for this story on why they don't have, it's a basically plain, like you said, the White Album,
Yeah.
without capitalizing on David's face, which was everywhere, and everyone was just buying up anything with David's face on it. Um, yeah, he's like, they just wanted it that way. That's the way they wanted it. And I don't, I gotta buy it because it's
Strange.
from Johnny Ray Miller and like, but it's interesting that they did that. And I think it's very rock and roll. And if you listen to that album, like the first track right off of the top, the white, the Notebook, it's all rock, it's rock and roll, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah. It's more
yeah,
of a
it's a
rock and
very
album.
rock and
Yeah,
roll album. So I
yeah,
think if we were
yeah.
gonna do that on any album, it would have been the Notebook for sure.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Johnny Ray Miller is the one who wrote the book When We're Singing, and it's a great book. It's the Partridge Family Bible, really, when you think
That's what
about
I
it,
call
because
it. Yep.
it's huge. It's got so much detail on all the records and all the albums and the TV show itself. Thank you very much, Patty, for sharing it.
I keep it by me at all times because I
So
it's a reference book for
it
me.
is. It is. That's how I use it as well.
Yeah,
It's a great book, and David Cassidy wrote an introduction for it, and yeah, so I recommend that out to all my friends out there that love the Partridge Family, love David Cassidy. You should go out and get that.
exactly.
Um, one of the few odd collectibles that I ever had was that we had a music store that was around the corner from where I lived, and they actually had uh the song the music for the Sound Magazine album, which was really cool because not only did it have the music for all the songs, but it had some really cool pictures and all that. And of course, that's been gone since about 1972, uh, when we moved. And so,
Well, you'll have to watch my episode on songbooks because I actually have that in my collection and all the other album songbooks that came out. So that's coming up.
speaking of the songbooks, then maybe you'll cover this in your show. So, if you want to talk about it, but do you play an instrument?
I do dabble in guitar. I have my guitar back there. I always joke that I know like four chords.
That's all you
I
need.
could play those four chords to death. But yeah, that's about it. I've just been dabbling since I was a kid,
Yeah,
here
I'm
and
I'm
there.
I'm 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 attempting to learn piano.
Oh, yeah. I tried that at one point. It's yeah. I think you have to have a special like mental thing going on to learn piano.
Oh, that's cool. All right, so I got a couple of fun questions for you.
Oh, okay.
Um, of course, with the Partridge Family, there were two Chris's. There was Jeremy Gelbrecht, the original Chris Partridge, and Brian Foster, who came in the second year. So, are you a Jeremy or a Brian?
Oh, I'm Brian all the way. I loved it. I was not a big fan of Jeremy. I didn't like the way he held his drumsticks. I was very critical of him. I thought that he was tiny, and I didn't couldn't figure out if he was like. Uh, I mean, I knew he was older than Tracy, but I couldn't. But when that second season started and there was Brian Forster, I was like, that's Shirley Jones's kid right there. That's a Partridge. So yeah, I get, it's so funny that there's a camp, right? I get it
Yeah.
all the time. Like there's a Jeremy camp and there's a Brian camp, and I'm I'm Team Brian all the way.
Well, they were Brian. They both of them were cute kids, and they
Yeah, they
both
were
did a good
cute.
job. I thought Suzanne and Brian were very cute together, so that was
I
always
thought
nice. But
Brian was a better drummer too. I mean, he was a real
he
drummer, and
was.
he
He
took
became a drummer.
yeah. And I think he took that, they had like, from what I understand, they had somebody offset when they were playing the music, and then the person would coach them, and the person from some stories I heard that didn't even have to do anything with Brian because he could hear the music and he was like in beat, and he did a great job. So
Yeah. I've
um,
always loved Jeremy because, from I believe it was the Star Quality episode where the gossip columnist mistakes Danny for well, mistakes Jeremy for Danny or whatever, something like that, whatever. And that was very, very cute. So yeah, I always liked him, and I thought that he was a good younger brother of Keith Partridge. So
oh, there you
where
go.
you saw that Brian was Shirley's son, I could see him as Danny's brother.
Okay, I see that.
Yeah, as David's Keith's brother, I should say.
Yeah, Keith's little brother.
Okay, now there were two Partridge Family episodes, or at least two that I know of, where the Partridge Family rescue somebody else, more or less play rescuers. They get involved in their lives, and in particular, one runaway girl who was running away to Albuquerque because she had some issues with her step parents or her grandparents, and she wanted to be home with her father. And another episode with Meredith Baxter Burney, who
Right.
was an heiress who was escaping having the responsibilities of all her money. So, are you a mermaid
Mermaid.
or are you a runaway?
Ah, that's a tough one. I like the episode of The Mermaid. I like that Meredith Baxter at the time, I guess, episode. But I love the music in the Runaway one, so I'm gonna have to go with that one. That on the road, Tony Romeo's song "Road to Albuquerque."
Ah,
I mean,
yeah.
oh, that's classic. It's just a classic Tony Romeo song, and yeah. But I can watch both those episodes. Just they're both great.
Oh, sure.
I like the show better with the Mermaid. Than I did with the Runaway.
Yeah.
Both actresses were great, by the way, but yeah,
Oh, I mean, they good stuff, good
yeah, so good
stories.
stuff.
And the songs, Tony Romeo, my favorite.
Yeah,
I loved everything he did.
everything. It's just so surprising to me that that song, that Albuquerque song, is was never released as a single. But everyone knows it. Everybody knows it. It was like one of the favorites off of the first album, and but just one of the classic Partridge Family songs, I think.
Well, it is very interesting to try to understand um, what was involved with choosing albums or choosing singles from the albums. And you have an episode in your uh, My Partridge Family collection in which you discuss that a little bit more further. I'll let my audience go out and find your website, I mean, your YouTube page, and also on whatever platforms that the podcast is on, My Partridge Family Collection, and check out episodes about some of the albums. I don't want to give away too much information that you've put out there, but it certainly helped me understand a little bit better too.
If to make it easy on people, I actually am launching a website It's called mypartridgefamilycollection.com. And I
Oh,
have like
cool.
links to the YouTube, links to the podcast. I'm going to be doing a blog and some other things. I haven't officially launched it yet, but I will in a few weeks after this recording. So I'll let everybody know beforehand. If you go there, it's still it's live, but there's stuff I'm still working on there.
That's
But
very cool.
yeah,
I'll check that out.
ready.
And to tell you what, just send me an email with the
Oh,
link of it, and I'll put that in the show notes and link to
awesome.
your YouTube and everything like that.
Thank you. I
Um,
appreciate
one
it.
more thing, before you go, we're gonna play Desert Island Disc. So if you're on a desert island, if you happen to bump into Gilligan and Skipper, and you end up being on a 3-hour tour with them, and you get stranded, what Partridge Family album do you have with you?
I always go back to this album no matter what era I'm in, and it's up to date. Up to Date is my ultimate favorite album. I have it sitting here behind me. The cover, the back cover, all the songs. I have one of my favorite all-time Partridge Family songs on that album. It's kind of a deep cut. It's a song by Steve Dossett called "I'll Leave Myself a Little Time," which might be
Yes,
perfect. It might be perfect for the desert island. It's one of those songs that I put on when I'm not feeling great, and it just lifts me up. And David, and just the song, the arrangement. It's one of those underrated songs, but it's so great. And yeah, Up to Date, always, forever.
I love that album. I love David's voice from the
So
first
much.
two albums.
Yeah.
I understand that it was studio trickery involved, but in my opinion, he sounds more earnest. And the songs were not necessarily all about boy girl. There was more social commentary involved.
Right.
And so I thought some of the songs were better during that period. But
Can I
uh,
ask you real quick, Ed,
yeah,
what is your favorite song? What is your desert island song?
well, my Desert Island
Album.
song would have to be I Think I Love You. I mean,
Okay.
I love it with all my heart. Um, but actually, my Desert Island album would be Crossword Puzzle,
Really?
only because it's a bit more fresher, and I think it has a lot of really, really cool stuff in it, like Sunshine and and you know, um, geez, I'm blanking, but there's so many really good songs that come on Love. I love all that stuff. When he's saying sings to his mother in the in you
When
know
yeah, one day at a time is a
one
good
day,
song.
and all so I mean that could be one that I would take. I could take any of them. They would be
Right.
happy to have with me. I love Sound Magazine. I love Shopping Bag. I love them all. That's why I'm a Partridge Family fan. 55 years later, still at it after all these years.
I'm right there with you. And there's
There
so many
you go.
artists out there, Ed. I tell you,
Cool.
so much fun.
So, unless there's something else you want to share with me, I'm going to ask you to just give us a little information about where people can find you, what kind of projects you have coming up.
Yeah, well, first of all, I thank you so much for what you do. I mean, you bring the old time alive and the memorabilia. I really love your show, and it's an
Thank you.
honor for me to be on it. And I can't wait to share this with all my audience. So if they haven't discovered you, they will. Um, as far as what I have in store, I have my website coming out, mypartridgefamilycollection.com, on the podcast. I'm starting to do something. I'll be releasing a little retro reviews. So at the end of episodes, I've started to do this where I just review things that have come out in the past, like I did Susan Day's first feature starring role feature film, First Love with William Catt, and Shirley Jones's memoir, things that have been out, but I wanted to just give a little homage to and do like a little retro review at the end of my show. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take those reviews and break them out into their own separate category on my YouTube channel. So if people just want to go in and look at the retro reviews, they're like 5 to 7 minutes long. They're very short, but I show like little scenes, and people seem to get a kick out of it. So I'm going to be doing that as well, and that's something new that's going to come up. I thought I was going to have this YouTube show for maybe a couple of months, and that was going to be it. But I find that there's just so much. I mean, I got a ton of stuff in my
Supply and demand.
it just keeps going and going and going. And so I'm excited for that, and excited for people to discover me on Apple Podcasts and YouTube and stuff. So I appreciate the time today, Ed. It's been super fun. I'll talk about the Partridge Family and David Cassidy all day if I could.
Okay, we will do that. We'll do this again. Absolutely.
I
Okay,
love it.
so Patty, thank you very much for being on the show. This is Ed's Pop-O-Matic podcast, and you can find it on YouTube. Go up there and you can search for Ed Rising, or you can search for Ed's Pop-O-Matic podcast, and you'll find a bunch of videos just like this. And you're going to find us also on Spotify and on Apple Music and a few other platforms where you can get your podcasts. Although I've not updated my audio stuff in quite a while, so I gotta work on that. So anyway, I thank you very much for checking this out. If you want to reach out to me, you can check me out on Facebook. And I thank you very much for joining us today. Have a nice day and enjoy the Partridge Family always. And if I can find the record button, we can get out of here. Okay. And are you sure you want to stop recording? Yes.
Yeah.